In the distance, a siren wailed, growing louder as it approached. Officer Jessica Hayes stood at the corner of 5th and Oak, her gaze sharp, her posture poised but alert. Her K-9, Max, was by her side, his powerful body tensed, sensing the tension in the air. Jessica had been on the force for 10 years, and this was just another day on patrol. Or at least, she thought it would be. Across the street, a sleek black car rolled to a stop. The engine hummed with an unsettling familiarity, the kind that echoed in the dark corners of the city's underworld. She recognized the vehicle. It belonged to the Romano family, a notorious Mafia dynasty that had been causing trouble in the city for decades. But what Jessica didn't expect was who was stepping out of the car. Luciano Romano, the youngest son of the crime family, was known for his reckless behavior and his volatile temper. He was a man feared by everyone, yet rarely seen. His father had kept him hidden from the authorities, hoping to shelter him from the chaos he stirred. But Luciano had never been one to hide in the shadows for long. His presence alone was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. As he stepped out of the car, his cold eyes scanned the street, landing on Jessica and Max. A cruel smirk curled across his lips. Jessica could feel the air shift, thickening with a sense of danger. Max growled softly, his muscles tensing as he mirrored his handler's unease. "Hey, officer," Luciano called out with a voice dripping with mock sweetness. "You and your dog planning to stop me today?" Jessica didn't flinch. "I'm just doing my job, Romano," she replied, her voice steady, but her instinct screamed for her to be ready. She had dealt with criminals before, but this was different. The air crackled with hostility, and she could sense that this encounter would not end peacefully. Without warning, Luciano lunged at her, knocking her back with surprising force. Max immediately leapt forward, aiming to protect his handler, but Luciano kicked him hard in the ribs, sending the dog tumbling across the pavement. Jessica gasped, her heart pounding as she scrambled to her feet, but the world around her seemed to slow down. The pain in her chest wasn't from the impact, but from the sight of Max, her loyal companion, struggling to rise. She couldn't lose him. Not like this. "Stupid dog," Luciano sneered, his foot connecting with Max again, the impact reverberating through the air. Max yelped in pain, but he was not one to give up easily. Despite his injuries, he dragged himself up, his eyes locked on Luciano with the same determination he always had. But this wasn't just about the dog. It was about something deeper, something Jessica could feel swelling inside her. This wasn't just an attack, it was an assault on everything she stood for. Her badge, her service, her duty to protect, and her bond with Max. Luciano wasn't just a criminal. He was a symbol of the chaos that threatened everything good in the world. And then, just when things seemed to be spiraling out of control, a new sound pierced the tension, the low rumble of an approaching engine. It wasn't the usual sirens of a squad car. No, this sound was different, stronger, more purposeful. A black motorcycle skidded to a stop beside them, sending a cloud of dust into the air. The rider dismounted quickly, his face concealed by a helmet. But there was something in the way he moved, calm, controlled, focused, that immediately told Jessica this was no ordinary person. The man's eyes locked onto Luciano, and without a word, he moved with lightning speed, disarming him of the small knife he had pulled from his jacket. Luciano stumbled back, his eyes wide. With surprise, he hadn't expected anyone to intervene. The motorcycle rider didn't waste a second. He grabbed Luciano by the arm and twisted it behind his back, forcing him to the ground with a single, fluid motion. "Not today," the man said, his voice low but firm. Jessica stood there, frozen for a moment, her heart racing as she processed the turn of events. This wasn't just any passerby. This was someone who knew exactly how to handle himself in situations like these. The man, noticing her gaze, looked over at Jessica and nodded. "You okay?" he asked, his voice softer now, filled with concern. "Yeah," she replied, taking a step forward. "But, who are you?" The man removed his helmet, revealing a face she had never expected to see. It was rugged and weathered, but his eyes held a calmness, a sense of experience that spoke volumes. The name on his uniform read, Chris Carter. "I'm a Navy SEAL," he said, almost as if the words themselves carried their own weight. "I was just passing through, but looks like I arrived right on time." Jessica's mind raced. A Navy SEAL, in the middle of a Mafia showdown. It seemed almost too unbelievable, yet the way Chris stood there, poised and confident, told her that he was exactly what he claimed to be. But there was no time for questions. Luciano was still struggling to break free, his face contorted in rage. Chris didn't hesitate. He tightened his grip on the Mafia's son, forcing him to stay down until backup arrived. Max, still recovering, limped over to Jessica's side, his eyes filled with gratitude. Despite his injuries, the dog was more concerned about his partner than himself. "Hey, buddy," Jessica murmured, her voice shaky as she knelt beside Max. "You did good. You did real good." With the situation now under control, Jessica took a deep breath, finally feeling the tension start to ebb. The backup arrived, the sirens blaring as the officers quickly apprehended Luciano and loaded him into the back of a squad car. As the chaos died down, Chris stepped closer to Jessica. "You and your dog did well," he said, his voice kind but full of an unspoken understanding. "But it's easy to lose sight of why we do what we do when the world is like this." Jessica nodded, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The man hadn't just intervened to stop a fight. He had reminded her of something she hadn't realized she had been forgetting: why she became an officer in the first place. It wasn't for the fame, the glory, or even the victories. It was about protecting what was good, what was right, and standing up for those who couldn't defend themselves. "You didn't have to step in," Jessica said, her voice thick with emotion. "But you did. Thank you." Chris shrugged, a humble smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Sometimes, you don't need a reason to do the right thing. You just do it." As he turned to leave, Jessica looked down at Max, her heart swelling with pride and relief. They had made it through, together. And sometimes, in this unpredictable world, that was enough. In a city filled with shadows, where violence often reigned and corruption seeped into every corner, that moment, small and fleeting as it was, reminded her of the power of compassion. The world might not always be fair, but there were still people out there who believed in kindness, in doing the right thing when it mattered most. And that, she realized, was what gave her hope.